parents have worked collaboratively with local District South Superintendent Mike Romero and Board District 7 Tanya Ortiz Franklin and Black families across local District South to create the validated plan for Black students. Sorry. We are grateful to be joined by elected officials and district leaders. Mike Romero, Tanya Ortiz Franklin, and State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman. We have all come to discuss this we have all come to discuss their commitment to Black student achievement in our district and state.
Good evening. My name is Keisha Jones, and the purpose of tonight is for us to highlight the validated plan. So validated means to be heard and understood, and this plan captures that. We're also holding this meeting to ensure families in local District South have access to this plan. More specifically, we're celebrating what happens when Black families, students, and community members come together to co-create action steps that remove barriers for Black students. Tonight, we will share the validated plans, action steps, and timeline, and we'll reveal the People's Playbook for the validated plan. Finally, we will hear directly from our state superintendent and local district leaders, sharing their commitments and priorities to promote Black student achievement.
It is important that we achieve these goals during our time together. We will try our best to stick to this outlined agenda. 2 years ago, when we last convened in person, it was easier for us to deepen relationships with each other in a shared space. Today, we are virtual and connecting with over 200 Black families and community members from various parts of the city and state.
I would like to introduce Pastor Peter Watts to explain who we are and what we care about as an organization.
Good afternoon. You may ask, who are we? We are the Black Student Achievement Parent Committee, working with Innovate Public Schools to ensure that those who are invisible, disenfranchised, overlooked, dismissed, labeled, and underserved in the Black community have access to good education. We are a group of parents, grandparents, pastors, community leaders, and teachers from all types of schools, charter, district, and magnet. We did this starting in 2018 by organizing ourselves, our community, and people like you that want to see Black students excel, that want to see Black students flourish, and want to see Black students reach new heights. Our mission was clear. It was to eliminate the achievement gap for the 50,000 Black students by pushing the district to unapologetically commit to Black student achievement and provide targeted resources for Black students. Now, after countless hours of organizing, planning, knocking on doors, and meeting with hundreds of community members, district leaders, parents, local churches, and community organizations, Innovate Citywide Black Student Achievement Parents Leader Team secured a commitment from local District South Superintendent Mike Romero. At a community event hosted at a local church in the city of Watts by the Parent Leader Team with over 300 people in attendance, local District South Superintendent Mike Romero said, and I quote, "I'm going to be unapologetic about how we have to do things differently, especially for African-American kids." Then COVID-19 hit. But even beyond COVID-19 pandemic, which forced school closures in 2020, even beyond distance learning, worsening the inequities that Black and low-income students in the district were experiencing, our group refused to give up on all of the work that we had pushed for those 50,000 Black students in LAUSD. Again, you may ask, who are we? We're the ones who in 2021 found a champion for our work. LAUSD board member Tanya Ortiz Franklin and Black parents, faith leaders, educators, and community members worked closely with Ms. Ortiz Franklin's staff and local District South Superintendent Mike Romero to develop a plan that centers the needs of Black students. The plan is called the Validated Plan, promoting equity and access for Black students. You ask again, who are we? We are Black Student Achievement.
Thank you so much for that, Pastor Watts. I'm here now to introduce State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman. State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman, is responsible for the largest public school system in the nation. With more than 6.3 million students and over 10,000 schools, since taking office, State Superintendent Thurman has made improvement in equity, access, and opportunity for California's public school students his top priority. He has created initiatives that are focused on closing the opportunity gap for the state's most vulnerable students and is dedicated to supporting educators in delivering an equitable education to all students. During his 4-year tenure in the Assembly, Thurman authored legislation that successfully expanded the lunch program, bilingual education, and the Chaffee Grant College Scholarship Program for foster youth. Additionally, Thurman's legislation guaranteed preferential voting rights for student school board members, improved access to families for early education and childcare, and shifted millions of dollars directed from prisons to schools. State Superintendent Thurman is a social worker, educator, advocate, and public school parent who continues to work tirelessly on behalf of all students to ensure they reach their full academic potential. We welcome remarks from our State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman.
Thank you, Ms. Mack, and to all the parent leaders. I'm so impressed with what you have organized. Organizing is my background. And when I love that there is a grassroots organization focused on listening to the voices of our parents and our grandparents and our aunties and our uncles and our civic leaders and faith leaders and all those who have cried out, enough is enough is enough. We must find a way to make a difference in the experience of Black children in African-American communities. And so I am grateful to you. I love learning the story of your organizing and all the work that you have done and the recommendations that you have made. I'm grateful to have had a moment to look through some of the recommendations, and I'm happy to talk about them, see how we can link arms together on some of them, share some things that are happening at the state level that we hope are also going to be helpful. I would also just say that we have named a new effort at the California Department of Education that is focused on Black student achievement and improving Black student achievement. And as you have indicated, calling it out in an explicit way, meaning that we have to name it. If we don't talk about the impacts of racism, how will we address the impacts that racism has had on African-American students or Latino students or students from low-income backgrounds? We must call these things out and then be explicit on building strategies to make changes for all students, but we must call it out for Black students. And for those reasons, I've named a new task force that is focused on building a set of strategies that will focus on how to improve the experience of our Black students. We know our Black students can be successful. The achievement gap is something that they can overcome, but we must remove barriers that have been in their way. All across this state, we see examples of segregated schools that have high percentages of African-American students, in some cases, Latino students, and often high rates of poverty. We know that we need programs that will address those disparities to make change for our students. That's why this past year, I sponsored a bill with Assemblymember Mike Gibson that would create funds to expand the male educator of color pipeline. We know that data shows that when students see teachers who look like them, students of color do better. Matter of fact, students from all backgrounds do better. The data says all you need is one teacher, just one teacher of color to help students of color, and all students do better. We like to see a few more. And so we've introduced this legislation, and now it became part of California state budget. That means that there are dollars in this year's state budget to allocate grants to help diversify the teacher workforce, to recruit and retain more educators of color. And of course, we're giving special consideration for also building out the pipeline programs like in Compton Unified and in Bakersfield, and our CSU programs that call out having male educators of color, in addition to the work we need to do to diversify the teacher workforce. I noted that in your plan that you talk about recruiting school leaders and providing them with the professional learning and the professional development that they need to help our students overcome the opportunity gap. And so for those reasons, I'm excited to see how we might work together. Excited to learn more about the career-based mentoring that you talked about. Our students should have the chance to dream about every single opportunity that they might become. I know that for myself, that was my experience. My teachers telling me that my life would be better than it started if I just believed in education. As someone, who started life, trying to overcome poverty and overcome trauma, losing my mom at the age of 6, having a dad who fought in the Vietnam War, who never came home, and I found him on the internet after my 39th birthday. We struggled. I grew up on the free lunch program. I grew up on a thing called food stamps. I know they say EBT card now, but it was food stamps and government cheese, y'all. Ain't so much government cheese. I thought that USDA was a brand name. These are programs that helped my family to overcome poverty. But nothing was more important than the things that happened in my community, the faith leaders who supported me to help me overcome trauma, and my education. Getting a great education opened doors for me and changed the course of my life. My teachers made a promise. They made a promise that life would be better than it started if I believed and followed the path of education. We must deliver on this promise for all of our students, and in particular for Black students who have seen barriers in their way. So we're excited to work with you on the career-based mentoring opportunities. And I want to call out the work that you note around reducing chronic absenteeism. We know that when our students aren't in school, that they may lose time that may push them out of our schools. And so we have to get our chronic absenteeism rates to be below 10% for all of our students. This is an area that we would love to work with you. It is something I've worked on for many years in my social work career and as an elected official. At the California Department of Education, I've named a new branch called the Equity Branch. It's never existed before at the California Department of Education. And so we want to be able to work with you on all these things. I created a whole new division called Family Engagement so that we have ways to work with our parents and our students and families on how our schools do a better job of connecting. I know that your focus is on local district South, and thank you to the work of Superintendent Romero and Trustee Tanya Ortiz-Franklin. Our work is focused statewide, but we like to partner and work closely with you on the things that we do to support Black student achievement, both in Los Angeles and across the state. And I'm hopeful that we will create ripples that will travel across the nation. Someone asked a question about how we work with parents. We've created now a statewide parent advisory council. In many ways, it looks like our work is mirroring yours, and we love to work closely with you on that work. We hope that you will join us in our task force on Black student achievement. We have named some co-chairs like Dr. Pedro Noguera, Dr. Tyrone Howard, Dr. Kelly Lytle Hernandez, and Dr. Joseph Johnson, who helped to found the Center for Urban School Transformation. We'll have some updates about that. I'm joined tonight by Blake Johnson on our staff, who put his email in the chat if you all want to work closely with us, because we want to work closely with parents and educators. Big thanks to all of our parent families, educators, families, extended families who are helping to raise our young people and support them. We know that these are difficult times, and we want to work closely with you in this work. We're also doing all we can to keep our children safe during the pandemic. We've secured 5 million rapid COVID tests. We delivered 100,000 of them to LA Unified just a few weeks ago when school was going to open. We've been working on vaccine outreach. We've done outreach to more than 500,000 people who live in Los Angeles County to make sure that anyone 12 and older can get a vaccine, because we know that 99% of those who have the most serious reactions to COVID are those who are unvaccinated. And sometimes that includes death. We want to protect everybody, y'all. It's safe. It's free. You don't have to have insurance. We know that there's fears and people have heard a lot of myths. Just talk to our trusted partners about how to be safe, because we know that African Americans experience health disproportionality. When you talk about underlying health conditions, I can probably check off every one that they say. That's why I got my vaccine, and that's why I got my vaccine for my 2 teenage daughters, so that we can be safe, so that we can be together in school, we can be in restaurants, we can be in our faith houses of faith, we can be in the community and be with our loved ones here in the beloved community. So please get your vaccine and continue to wear your mask at school and continue to be safe. I want to also thank my good friend Manufo for the invitation today to be with you all. We are looking forward to partnership at every step of the way that we can. I hope that you'll join our effort to support Black student achievement. And finally, that you will join our task force that we've named to make sure that all of our children can learn to read by 3rd grade. We all know that's a critical benchmark for student achievement. We know that children who don't learn to read by 3rd grade are more likely to drop out of school, and unfortunately, they can end up in the criminal justice system. We've talked about this for years. Prisons are building the number of beds they build based on 3rd grade reading and 3rd grade attendance. We cannot allow the criminal justice system to have any more of our babies. As a former legislator, I was proud to introduce legislation that says end private prisons and to get prisons and police out of our schools, get them counselors to support them. And so we're excited to work with you on all of these efforts. Please join our new literacy campaign. We have said that we're going to make sure that all children in California will learn to read by 3rd grade, and we'll do that by 2026. We got to set the bar high. I read that in your report. You're saying set the bar high and then give our kids the support that they need to achieve those goals. So we hope that you'll join us. You can go to State Literacy Campaign at cde.ca.gov if you want to join this effort. We have some wonderful chairs who are going to help us to move this work, and we're going to make sure that all of our kids can read, because I don't want to hear any more stories about children who are 3 and 4 years old being suspended and expelled from school. I don't know what you got to do to be suspended from school when you were 3 and 4 years old, especially our African-American boys. That's why I sponsored legislation that gives us restorative justice programs and has sent more than $90 million to our schools to be able to have restorative justice programs, alternative to suspension. These are just a few of my thoughts, Ms. Mack. I appreciate you kicking this off. I'm going to turn it back to you. Let me know if there are any questions or any other ways that we can connect. We look forward to working with the families and the parents who have brought this wonderful movement forward. And thank you for the opportunity to join you tonight. Looking forward to our work together on behalf of Black students in Los Angeles and in the state of California.
Thank you, State Superintendent Tony Thurman. We are very grateful for you to join our meeting tonight. And we're looking forward to continuing to work with you to ensure Black students and Black educators are seen and celebrated in our schools. Next, I would like to introduce Akila Roten Jr. to provide a moment of reflection.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Akila Roten Jr. I'm a Black man who grew up in Compton, California, and also Watts, California. I attended in my latter years LAUSD school, and I know what it is to be a Black student, and I also know what it is to be a Black employee for the school district. To be honest, if it wasn't for my alma mater, King Drew Medical Magna High School of Medicine and Science in the city of Compton / Watts, I would have just been another statistic. I would have been just another number in the district's repertoire just to pass through. For the past 10 years, I have navigated with LAUSD not only as an employee, but also a parent of 5 children who all have different various needs. And around 2017, 2018, my youngest son, I felt was gifted, and he began to test gifted, but he was literally being ignored in the classroom. Then also, on the other hand, I had a daughter who fell a little bit behind due to certain circumstances, and they both weren't receiving the academic needs that they needed for both. So I have one child who's gifted, not receiving the needs, and I have one child who needs just a little bit of help, and she didn't receive the needs as well. My children have always expressed to me that they were being ignored. Dad, I'm not being seen. Dad, the teacher doesn't like me. Dad, the teacher doesn't call on me. And I had my son who never even said a word. He just sat in the back of the class. We said earlier on to have black teachers. When my son finally got his first black teacher, she recognized the gift in him, and she recognized him for gifted, and she recognized him to be able to move to the next level. I can't say the same for my daughter who needed a little bit of help. I know what it's like firsthand to be a black student, a black boy in the classroom, and be the only black boy in the classroom and not be paid attention to. But because I was gifted, because I was talented, I had to stand out in different ways. I know also the feeling of a black parent to have black children who need the needs from their public school district. And so hearing these things, I want to know, there has to be people on this Zoom to know that you share similar barriers, similar trials, obstacles, trials, and tribulations with your own children. So let's take a moment, just a brief moment, to acknowledge each other's efforts. If you're watching this Zoom, please share in the chat some of the struggles you have encountered with advocating for your children, whether it be lack of resources, incompetent teachers, not enough funding, your child not being recognized. You have this time in the chat to post these things so we'll be able to read them out loud so we can know that we are one. We have Ms. Gibson Murray letting us know that her child has had honors classes, hasn't had any honor classes, yet having a 4.0 GPA for the last 2 years. We have Andrea Duvon, who races teachers who are not held accountable. Carol and Willie, the black students at my school are being sent to the office for ridiculous stuff instead of addressing the needs in the class. Felicia Cruz, she's encountered her child being singled out for punishment in TK when non-black children were not, for the same appropriate behavior. Parents are not receiving proper services in special education. Oh, here we go. Now we're on. Black boys are being asked to sit still all day in kindergarten. My son has been constantly kicked out of school for no valid reason. Thank you all for sharing, as we do know that the system has never been set up for us to succeed, but we're here to combat the system, to destroy the system, and to create a new system for equality. I want to say this, now it's 2021. After the murder of George Floyd and the racial unrest that fled the cities via social media, in the streets, in the community, and Black people have experienced the same things being closely monitored. Now they're starting to try to pay attention. Now they're starting to see that we are here and we are loud and we are proud and we are strong, but we want equality just like everyone else. If you realize that many companies like Apple and Dove have allocated money to support causes like Black Lives Matter. And in our own very school district, we have reallocated millions of dollars to support Black student achievement. And we have a plan. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have a plan. We have not just been talking. We have not just been meeting. We actually have a plan of attack, a plan of action. This one, we're celebrating this today. As I reflect on these changes and how everybody wants to do something to support Black students, I'm explicit in what I don't expect to see and what I should see in the effort. See, for me, no longer should I hear my children expressing feeling in school. We should see increase in data outcomes for Black students, more Black students engage. So now the data should change over the next few years. Now we should see a great improve from Black students be getting into gifted and talented. We should see an improve on special needs for Black students. We should see a better move so for social emotional engagement to be able to take care of our Black students. Now I ask you guys to tell me what it is that you've been through. Now I want you to, in the chat, tell me what your vision is. Tell me what you see for Black students today. Tell me what you want to see in the days to come, what you want to see in the action, what you want to see in the plan, what you want to see in the fight. Teachers train on how to help Black students with dyslexia. Wow, that's powerful. 100% graduation rates, 100% college acceptance. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. We setting the bar high. Equal education and resources as their white counterparts. There it is. Young Black boys being treated as human beings. A space for them, here it is, to voice the racist trauma that they have experienced. There it is. Quality meals, unapologetic individuals who truly care. I want to see parent classes on the campus monthly. Our Black children being acknowledged for the gifts and talents they have. Our Black children immediately given the support they need outside of just playing sports. Our children are more than just carrying a ball. Our children are more than just throwing a ball. Thank you. Let's continue to imagine and push for the vision for our Black children. And as like my picture in my background, let's stand together because we already know where we come from and we already know the stock that is in us. Let's continue to get this plan in action and continue to fight the system and destroy and dismantle it so we can be able to move on. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Akila, for your reflection and what our vision for the future holds for Black students. We will now take time to hear from Local District South Equity Director, Dr. Kenya Williams. She will explain what the validated plan is, identify the 5 action steps the district is committed to, and the implementation timeline. Hi, Kenya.
Hi, thank you, Melissa. I appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. I really appreciate you all allowing me to be here and present about the validated plan in Local District South. I am so happy to be a part of this program, especially being led by our fearless leader, Mr. Michael Romero. So I would love to share a couple of slides with you to really talk about what the validated plan is and how we plan to move the needle for Black students in Local District South. So at the beginning of the presentation, you heard that over 2 years ago, the Innovate Public Schools, parents, teachers, district leaders, school principals, community partners all got together to really talk about what is happening as far as the academic achievement for Black students. And imagine that this predated George Floyd, before really the world really started to take notice of issues of equity and access. The work started here in Local District South to support Black students. The validated plan ultimately reimagines education to make schools better for Black students, better at educating them, better at supporting them at all levels that they are experiencing in order to be able to find success. A lot of the comments that we see, in the chat is about the way that Black students are oftentimes excluded from the school community, the way in which they are targeted by bias and therefore are not getting the benefits of a great education in order to have all of the success and be able to achieve all of their dreams. And what the validated plan does is helps us look at where we are and where we want to go. So on the next slide, what you'll see is just the overall idea of what this plan really is. When we think about all of the stakeholders in Local District South that really help move the needle forward for students, everyone was able to be in that room and contribute to this plan. And that's what we are most proud of, is the collaborative effort that it took for us to really start to find where we want to go, identify it, and then move it forward. In the next slide, what you see are the overall action steps that we feel are critical in order to ensure that this work continues and that Black students see the benefit of these efforts. So if you look at action step 1, we're talking about the recruitment, development, and support of school leaders. Our state superintendent said it best: representation matters. And when we think about what school officials we have on campus that students are learning from, that they're talking to, that they feel supported by, they need to see people on campus that look like them. And so work is being done now and moving forward to make sure that we're keeping a great amount of diversity, especially when it comes to Black personnel on campuses, to make sure that students are feeling supported. Action step 2 and 3 have really begun since the beginning of this school year and continue to move all throughout this particular school year. But culturally responsive academic supports. We know that Black culture is an oral tradition. We know that students need to talk. We know that they need to really feel connected, and there are ways in which they learn, and we need to use their culture to really capitalize on how they see the world and how they interact in order to make sure that they feel connected to the school community and have all the resources that they need in order to find success. Action step 3, remove barriers to success. You've heard us talk about GATE, Gifted and Talented Education Program. I'm going to talk a little bit about our A through G, C or better plan, making sure that we have these protocols in place so that Black students are not excluded from enrichment programs, from intervention programs, from any program that's going to help them, to support them to move forward and gain access to college and career. Action step 4 and 5 go hand in hand. Really valuing Black stakeholders. We're developing our Black Parent Advisory Committee. It's going to be taking place a little later on this year, really starting to kick off in the month of November. And then, of course, centering leadership for Black students at the elementary, middle, and high school level, thinking about our BSUs, being able to expand them across Local District South. These are the opportunities that we feel are really critical in order to start to see change and see this shift to making sure that schools are working for Black students. If you look at the next slide, by breaking down these action steps, what we have done is we've identified what the instructional approach has to be in order to achieve these goals. In addition to that, it's important to make them measurable. We need to know what is the goal and be able to identify and evaluate how well we're doing in being able to achieve those goals, so that we're able to move beyond just sentiments, just talk about what we want to do, and for us to really say that, no, we're actually doing it, and this is how we know, so that we can share this information and make sure it's public to our families and all of our stakeholders. So with our first goal, we're looking at instruction. We really want to focus on early numeracy and literacy for our elementary students, all grades, starting from really focusing on our K through 3rd grade bands. We want to make sure that we're promoting small group instruction, that we are providing individualized academic support for students, and that we're having these data chats to look at where we are, how we're moving the needle, so that we can make adaptations to make sure that by the end of this academic year, we can see this 5% increase in literacy and numeracy for our K-3 students, because we know how critical reading and math foundational skills are in order to make sure that students continue to succeed as they move up the grade span. Our goal 2 and 1 and 2 go hand in hand, literacy and numeracy. The third focus here is looking at our gate identification. We want to see a 7% increase by the end of this academic year. And we've already started that process. We've already been talking to the principals, been talking to our gate coordinators, and our referrals are coming in. We're increasing that so that we can get Black students tested and identified for gate, giving them access to enrichment programs to ensure that they have access to high quality instructional strategies, engagement, so that when it comes time to apply for college, they have all the eligibility that they need and can find success. And the last goal, instructional goal of this model, is our A through G, C or better. This is really dear to our hearts because we see that we have some success with our Black students because we have a 92% graduation rate with Black students in local district South. However, that's D or better. When we start to really look at that data and pare it down and say, what about C or better? Those students that have eligibility for our CSU and our UC programs, that data decreases and we go to 50%. So the focus has to be here because we have to make sure that Black students upon graduation have the eligibility to apply to a CSU, UC, gain admittance, and graduate. That's the focus. And we want to see a 5% increase in that C or better by the time we hit the end of our 2022 school year. This work is happening now. Mr. Romero has been leading this work. Not only have all of our district leaders, our principals, our counselors come together at the table. We've identified all of our students that have Ds that need to be increased. We've created Google spreadsheets that Mr. Romero is looking at weekly, that the COSAs, the principals or coordinators are actually looking at. Students have been inputted into credit recovery programs, and that data is being monitored weekly. So again, looking at how we measure our progress, what action steps we are taking so that we can be very methodical, very action-based when it comes to achieving these goals. And looking at the next slide, I really want to invite all of our family members here in this meeting to join us for our validated plan presentation. This is where we really open up this plan. We go into even more detail than where we are now. And we talk about all of the steps, all of the plans that are happening, the goals, and also our timelines. Now, as you've seen some of the other goals, we've already starting in September and moving. A lot of our other goals that we've talked about are happening beginning November all the way to the end of this academic year. But we want to invite our families to join us for this webinar, this virtual actual live stream, just like this evening, to where the superintendent, our COSAs, our students are able to really talk in detail about the plan and really share with you what we're doing and how we plan to keep moving forward. Again, my name is Kenya Williams. I am supporting Local District South on the validated plan. And I invite you, as you'll see on the next slide, my email, to really communicate with me, collaborate with me, email me, let me know what your thoughts are, things that are happening, how we can best partner with you and really make the validated plan a success. Because we're really passionate about making sure that we eradicate obstacles, that we eradicate these inequities and make sure that Black students find success in Local District South. I really appreciate you guys giving me your time this evening. And again, if you have any questions, if I can be of any assistance, my contact information, as well as my colleague Sharon Williams, who is the equity coordinator, we'd be happy to talk to you and work with you one-on-one. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. So now we will hear from parents in Local District South and why these action steps are important to them. So first we'll hear from Malitha Gibson Murray, and then we'll hear from Rosie Coleman, and we invite them to share.
Hello, my name is Malitha Gibson Murray, and I have 2 children, 1 daughter in Local District West, and my son is in Local District South. Currently, my son is in the 8th grade, and he has attended 7 of those years in Local District South. During his 7 years in local district South, he has yet to have a Black teacher. Study shows that Black students who have at least one Black teacher are 13% more likely to attend college. That percentage more than doubles to 32% if they have at least 2 Black teachers. I unenrolled my son from local district South school and enrolled him in a local district West school for his 5th grade year, where he had the pleasure to be educated by his first Black male teacher. My son thrived emotionally, and I can honestly say that was his best school year, socially speaking. This teacher spoke so highly of my son's skills and abilities. About a year later, he attended a summer enrichment class where he was blessed to have another Black male teacher. This course was online, so I was able to hear how this teacher validated and affirmed my child. He even went a step further and told my son he would like to keep in touch with him, so when, not if, he applies to college, he could help him with his entrance letters. These are the type of experiences that every Black student, especially our Black male students, need to have in their education experience, because I know that this would make a difference in their future. I'm the parent that said that I had to advocate 2 years for my son to be placed in honors classes despite him having a 4.0 GPA. And I can't help but wonder if he had Black teachers, would it have taken him 2 years to be placed in honors classes? So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rosie Coleman. I'm a parent leader on the team. As a mother of 5 biracial young boys, 3 of which attend a LAUSD public school, it is imperative that we come together as a united front to make the resources available to our low-performing schools in our area and find solutions together. Through this initiative, we can directly address the achievement gap that exists in our Black and Brown communities. One of my concerns is reading assessments. My son scored a low Dibbles assessment in 2nd grade, and he was placed in an after-school reading intervention class so he could receive additional support and meet the standards for his grade. Despite weeks of intervention, he didn't do as well as I expected on the next assessment. There should be shorter check-in times to see if the intervention is being effective and if additional support is working. I think we need to evaluate what strategies are currently in place and how effective they are. I would like to see a more cohesive workflow between the teacher, parent, and the student, and create individualized reading skills plans with weekly check-ins to ensure there is a successful outcome. As a parent, I don't want to move my kids out of their home district. I want to make it better here, but we need leadership's help and a commitment that the validated plan will be implemented. We can't continue to wait on this because doing so would only widen the achievement gap. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie.
And thank you, Molita. So we just heard from parents in local district South and why they are advocating for the validated plan. But we also want to hear from the families, the 100 plus families that are on this call. So in the chat, please insert the name of the student you are advocating for. I have Kyra Roten, McCary Murray and Malia Murray, Conrad Lee, Julian and Nia, Jocelyn and Joquin, Craig Walker, Nyla Dixon and Anaya Dixon, Jasper, Margot Malika, Makari and Malia, Milo, Marcus and Marquise, Leilani, Felicia Cruz, Janae McGregor, Trisha Ferris, Julian and Nia. I apologize for any I missed. Janae McGregor is going fast. Christopher Bolden, Christian Bolden, Simone Nevels, Gabriel Carter, Kajani, not going to pronounce the last name correctly, my apologies. Leilani and Alasia Sibley. Jordan Jameer, and Ari Welch. So
I'm going to help you out here. I got Shepherd, Ravette. Sorry, guys. We have students, 50,000 students plus Black students in LAUSD. I am advocating for Anderson Connolly Moore, a 4.0 special education scholar. 14 community college classes under his belt. Snaps for you, Mom. All right. Thank you. Thank you, families. Thank you, Keisha, for doing that, for naming all the Black students, say their name. As you just heard, Black families highlight the need for the validated plan. It is also important for us to ensure all families in local District South can access these action steps for their own children. To do that, we created the People's Playbook. The People's Playbook is a tool created by parents for parents that will help all of us navigate this plan and ensure our kids will benefit from it. Everyone and Akila, can I have you come up? Everyone and Akila are going to show you how to use the People's Playbook. So when you encounter situations, you will be prepared.
Good evening. My name is Everett Nelson. The People's Playbook is validated plan for Black students, is a guide for parents and advocates to hold the district and school accountable to what was promised to the Black students in local District South. Keila?
Thank you, Ms. Errol. These are the action steps in the validated plan. Take a look, take some time. 5 good steps, 5 action steps. Let's see the playbook in real-time action. If I were a parent who wanted to know more about the action, step 3, specifically how Black students are identified for GATE, I will ask these questions to my child's teacher. How many Black students are currently enrolled in GATE? How is the school intentionally identifying Black students for GATE? That's my favorite one. And how is the school communicating about these advanced learning options with parents?
Well, I can tell you that. Go to www.innovateschools.org/playbook and scroll down to access the playbook. I'm going to slow down. Then we're going to or you can download it as a PDF to access it in your phone. Access your students' progress through the validated playbook. Then Citywide Black Student Achievement is how we would do that.
All right, thank you, Everett and Akila, for that example. Everett and Akila just gave us an example on how they plan to use the People's Playbook. Now, we want all of you to bring back the name of the student you inserted in the chat earlier this evening. We want to know how you plan to use the People's Playbook to advocate for your child. We want to know which action step in the validated plan speaks most directly to the needs of your child. To do that, we need everyone to participate in a short poll. A poll feature will show up on the screen. Please select this action plan to follow up on with your child's teacher. There's the poll. Just give you all a minute to respond. All right. I'm not seeing any poll results.
Right, 33% responding.
Oh, 33%. Thank you. Thank you. Is that Sean?
It is.
Thank you so much, because I cannot see it.
You're welcome. All right, at 38. Let's see if we can get to 45 here. Here we go. All right, here we go. Here
Oh, there we go. I see it. I see him now. All right. We have, let's see. So most of you responded to the culturally responsive academic supports, all steps. Everybody want to follow up on all steps. So those are 32% and 32%. Yeah, I feel like if you have enough time and the teacher has time, which the teacher should make time, this is an important conversation to have with your teacher on how they're supporting our Black students in every area. So I'm with all as well. All righty. Keisha, can you join me here on screen, friend?
I am here. So thank you, Melissa. And as we were able to see, because I can't see it anymore, it looked like removing barriers. I think it was at 35% when it went away for me, were the most important. There it is. Thank you. So my memory serves me correctly. Removing barriers to success was at 35%. And as we just learned, the priorities of everyone in this room. So we also have two district leaders here with us tonight who are responsible for making sure that the validated plan achieves its goals in supporting Black students and families to success. So now we want to take time to hear from them to learn their priorities for implementing this plan and the parts of this plan they are most excited about. I would now like to introduce the local District South Superintendent, Mike Romero, Board District 7 LAUSD Board Member Tanya Ortiz Franklin. We are very grateful to have both of you here and for your leadership in bringing this plan to fruition.
Just want to say good evening to Mr. Romero and Board Member Ortiz Franklin. My name is Cedric Nelms. I'm pastor at Chosen Generation Fellowship Church and a parent leader with Innovate Public School. Just want to say that this is exciting. I don't know how all of the folks are feeling this evening, but this is an exciting time to wherein we have a validated plan that we are presenting. And that means that our children, our Black children, are that much closer to getting exactly what they need. So without further ado, let me jump into the questions we have. So we would like to start by giving each of you 3 minutes to share with all of us what you think is most significant about this plan and how it will ensure Black student achievement. So Mr. Romero, we will start with you. You have 3 minutes to respond.
Sure. And everybody on the line who was a part of the plan development, thank you so much. One of the most significant pieces of the plan, more so than the words on those pages, is how we're holding ourselves accountable, how I'm holding myself accountable to move the needle for Black student achievement. So those prioritized goals, increasing gate numbers for Black kids by 7%, increasing Black students having C or better to graduate to go on to college by X%, by increasing reading proficiency levels, like tangible, here, this is where we were, and this is how we're going, and this is how we're hitting the goal. That's to me the most important, because yes, those actions we will implement. We believe they'll make a difference, but the most important thing for our community is this idea of accountability. It's not just rhetoric and it's not talk, and yes, we'll implement, but at the end of the day, we must move the needle, and I am very confident on the work that's already happening, and I'll share a little bit of that. I think that's what we're most excited about. And just another thing, Pastor, 33 years in education, 2 years ago, for the first time in my career, I stopped talking about kids of color. I've talked about Black students. First time in my career, unapologetic, unabashed about what we're going to do to support. Every principal meeting, and I made that commitment, and I mean it, we talk about our validated plan. I personally go through components, and I'll never stop. As long as I'm on the job, every time we meet with principals and every time we meet with groups, we come back to it, and then I hold ourselves accountable to the targets. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. I appreciate you. Board Member Ortiz Franklin, now we would like to hear from you. You also have 3 minutes.
Thank you. And thanks for your leadership, not just tonight, but with all of this work. I know it started before I became a board member, and even on the campaign, I had a brief snippet of, but I'm so proud of where this has come over the last several years. So big kudos and ups to all of our parent leaders in Innovate Public Schools. Thank you. I want to agree first with Mr. Romero. I think being really ambitious about the goals is exciting, and that is a result of parents pushing us to say we can't make incremental growth as we have for so long. Typically we'll grow 1 to 3 percentage points per year, but the ambitious goals of 6 percentage points in A through G, C or better, and 14 in math. 14, like that is huge. That is unheard of. And it's really important to write it down on paper, because we do value the written word in this district, and it is a helpful way to hold us accountable. But this playbook, I'm peeking through it right now for the first time. It's another layer of really clear steps that our families can take to help us stay accountable, right? We know we want to achieve this, and the big ambitious goals are the first step, but I'm really excited about what I know will be the public accountability with our partnership with parents. And honestly, that's what I'm most excited about from this plan. It's the way it came to be. It's the collaborative process with parents. It's the partnership between students and families, educators, and district staff. There is a bigger Black student achievement plan overarching at the district, where we invest $90 million this year and ongoing. That has also been a result of community advocating and asking for LA Unified to put our money where our mouth is. But this plan in particular had such detailed feedback from families. There were many, many meetings where we were looking at specific language. And I'm most excited about the continued detailed implementation of this plan. I think that's really what I'm the most excited about. And no, there's so many things I'm excited about. But the last thing, if I have 30 more seconds, is all of the names that were said in the chat. And I really want to uplift Akila for naming all of our kids that we're really dedicated to. I'm most excited that this plan builds trust and a pathway so that all of the students you named and the many that we couldn't name tonight have the opportunity to thrive in college, career, and life. I'm excited about the results that are going to happen because of our shared leadership for the kids.
Thank you for your responses. Now we do have a few questions for you. We'll start with Mr. Romero. We'll hear from you first. In 2019, you committed to creating a plan. Kenya just shared with us what that plan is. She shared what that plan was. Will you commit to ensuring every employee in local district South knows about this plan, understands their role in implementing it?
Absolutely, and we've already started that commitment, and I will never stop as long as I'm the superintendent. Let me give you a couple of examples. This summer, last semester, we introduced the draft of it to principals. And I committed to bringing the validated plan in front of our principals, me personally, and talking about components, the progress and specific actions to the pieces within the plan. And I've done that for our first 3 principal meetings. In fact, even last month, Kenya, we spent time on our actions to identify more GATE Black students. I commit, it's every single month, as long as I'm the soup, it'll continue to happen. That's with our principals, and really principals are the leverage point. They're the ones that typically, when we talk about implementation. Now,
so are you committing to establishing meetings with the principals?
Yeah, no, so it's part of our monthly principal meetings, and we spend time. Now, that's just with principals. Next week, we are presenting a principal toolkit on how we're going to ask them to formally present the plan to all of our teachers and the staff. Not just give it to the teachers, present it with talking points. They'll make it their own. Not only that, but how they share with parents. And I'll talk a little bit in a second about how we share with parents, but it has to come from the principals. Marquee messages, Connect Ed messages, text, reminders that never stop about the plan, but most importantly, progress towards the plan. Yes, we introduce it. Will be like a drumbeat of awareness with every staff member we have, our SAAs, our custodial team. So we haven't introduced it yet. We started with our principals, and just yesterday we started with our parents. But it'll be a drumbeat of awareness every single month, continuously. It can't be a one-stop. And it's not about sharing the elements of the plan month after month. It's talking about specific actions. And to your question, how do people help? What is their role in this for community reps? But that's how we're sharing. If I could talk about how we share with parents just quickly. So all of you know, we emailed, I emailed a letter from me 2 nights ago, and the actual plan to 12,000 plus Black families in the South. Every Black family we have, you were copied on that. That's not enough. We are going to mail the exact same plan October 11th. We're going to email it again October 20th. We're going to email it at 3 o'clock, 2 hours before we have our October 20th launch. That's not enough. Not every email is accurate. It doesn't get through. Next week, the 12,000 plus families will receive my letter and the copy plan, nothing fancy with the paperwork, just 2 staples, through US mail, That's not enough. Every family will also get a text from me. Now, we haven't done that, the protocols yet, but they will get a text, because an email, US mail, and a text is my way of saying that we did a good job of trying to get it out. Now,
so much. I appreciate that into this. We appreciate that. And I'd like to ask you one more question, if I could. Will you make sure that Black families in local District South have access to the validated plan? How will you do that?
Yeah. So in addition to the email and the text and the US mail I just shared for our Black families, we have a website established now. You got a copy of that. We'll continue to develop it. But here's what we're going to do. Every 6 weeks, we have a newsletter that Dr. Williams has put together. It's a draft right now. This newsletter will be sent every 6 weeks to every Black family forever, talking about the plan, talking about progress, talking about the workshops that are customized for Black families, talking about this opportunity and that opportunity as well. So yes, we have a website. Not everybody goes to a website. Yes, we're going to email, we're going to US mail, we're going to text the plan. We're going to do it again. But I think the newsletter, and we'll show it to you the next time the advisory group, Dr. Williams put together a beautiful prototype for it. I also have somebody from our the Office of Communication by our side, Daryl Strickland. He's a writer from the LA Times, formerly Seattle. Beautiful. He's helping us with it, kind of the key editor as well. So it's a great question. We're going to bombard and double down and be like a drumbeat of awareness for our Black families there. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your efforts to this cause. We really do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Board Member Ortiz Franklin, now we have a question for you. Currently in Local District South, Black educators make up 16% and across LAUSD only make up 8%. So Board Member Tanya, how are you going to and be able to bring more Black educators into our district as well as support current Black educators?
I really appreciate the question. And I think you're right in that it's both recruiting, like making it attractive, but also supporting and retaining our educators. I worked with schools for many years before being a school board member, and I remember several of our schools not having any Black educators. So even though Local District South is a little bit, has a greater percentage of Black educators, we know there are still schools where students will not have a Black teacher their entire experience. In fact, this is the case of my best friend and her children at the school where we met each other 25 years ago. And I'm really proud of her because she has taken it upon herself to join a hiring committee. And it's great that parents can be on these committees and be a part of the decision-making process for recruiting and hiring teachers at their schools. And we need school board members and local district leaders to also be very intentional about who we recruit into those spaces. And are we making even the process feel smooth and welcoming and desirable to work in LA Unified. My chief of staff's daughter is trying to be a teacher in LA Unified, and it's taken 2 months for her to get her contract signed and to start in schools. No, it's so exciting, yes, that she's going to be a teacher in our district. And when people tell stories of it takes 2 months to get hired in LA Unified, of course, they're going to get recruited to other districts. We have to remove the barriers that make it take so long. Now, part of that is the budgeting process. Part of that is our human relations and talent process. So we've been trying to work with the team to understand what are the challenges and how can we smooth those out. I'm really excited. There's another community partner that is really committed to Black educators in LA Unified. And so we're working on some policy that should be coming soon. We're trying to work with another board office. So keep your eyes open, but to be really intentional about that pipeline. And it doesn't just start from teacher education programs. It starts from high school. And do our high school students have good experiences in LA Unified so that they are motivated to go to college, graduate school, and want to come back to LA? And it's not just classroom teachers, it's counselors and social workers and nurses. There are so many positions for which we are in a shortage, and particularly in a shortage for Black educators. And I'll just say on the retention piece, one of my favorite teachers at a school I worked with for almost 10 years was the only Black teacher at her school. And her principal was very supportive, but when her principal left, she felt like she was constantly the voice of the Black educator, which was just unfair pressure, and she left. And she's a great contribution to the new school that she's at, and she's in community. But now that other school has a lot of work to do around making sure the campus environment is supportive for not just the students, but also for the staff. So, I appreciate this question. I don't have the perfect answer quite yet, but I think there are some things we can do around policy and practices at the board level, as well as working at various levels, even the school site, to make sure lots of folks have the empowered options to be a part of this process so that we are recruiting and retaining high quality Black educators to serve all of our kids.
Thank you for that. And you said something that I want to circle back to in your answer that I want to kind of drill down a little bit on. Will you commit to continuing to meet with our team of Black parents and educators to find a solution to this issue? Because like you said, you don't have a perfect answer, but are you willing to continue to work with us on this issue so that we can rectify it?
Absolutely. Fun fact, my chief of staff I met through the campaign with Innovate Parents, Innovate Public Schools. So if you all don't know Dr. Dee Dee Watts, she is amazing. And my new inspiration for TikTok is Peter Watts, because we are growing and learning in that area. So, we got to make it joyful as well and learn from each other and the fun things. But I really appreciate your leadership. I learn a lot from you all. Actually, I just sent the playbook to my friend who's like, these are great questions. I'm going to use them at my school. So I learned from you as well. So I hope you'll keep meeting with our team, and you'll definitely see lots of Dr. Watts and Charnel Blevins, who joins a lot of these conversations as well, who's on our team.
Oh yes, the how synergy and things work. It used to be 6 degrees of separation. Now it's just really 1 degree of separation, and the Watts are awesome. But that's a whole different summer for a whole different day. But I just want to recap real quick. Board Member Ortiz Franklin, you talked about our need for more Black educators. You talked about we need to remove barriers that make district hiring take so long. Which is a challenge, and a board resolution is coming soon to address this issue, looking at the pipeline for Black educators. And so that's just a quick recap of some of the things you laid out. And I just want to thank you, Board Member Tanya Ortiz Franklin, and I also want to thank you too, Mike Romero. We heard from you about making sure every employee in the district knows about this plan and prioritizes it. In fact, the draft has already been introduced to all principals, which is outstanding. Every single month, it will be a standing agenda item in every principal meeting, which is another salute to you for that. Principals also have a toolkit on how to present it to every teacher and their parents, and specific regular communication with Black families in your district through mail, email, text, and a website, and a newsletter for every Black family. So that is awesome. I think those are things, when we talk about accountability, those are the ways that we can be accountable. Those are the things we can connect, and those are the ways that we can create a healthy community for our Black constituents. I just want to turn it over to Melissa.
Thank you all. Thank you, Board Member Franklin. Thank you, Mike Romero, Superintendent Mike Romero. We are nearing the end of our event here. So we want to thank all our guests for being here. Thank you so much. But also want to thank all the local District South families for joining us tonight. Thank you for taking your time out to hear about the People's Playbook. I hope you heard something that you're going to take with you into your life and to help your student. As a fellow parent in a district, I am so encouraged by sharing this space with so many parents. And I'm feeling amped up and so motivated to join forces with all of you to make sure the validated plan is fully implemented with urgency and integrity to make sure all of our beautiful, brilliant Black children are supported into their full potential.
Thanks again, Melissa. So one last thing before we leave, we have a few commitments we want to get from all of you. So there is a link in the chat that we would like all of you to click and fill out as a way to help us make sure we can continue building our power together. As parents, to continue pushing our district to give our kids what they need, please click on that link now and fill out the survey before you leave the Zoom. And as you're did the link go in the chat? Did I miss it? Okay. So we need all of you to help us make the validated plan real for every Black student in this district. That is why we created the People's Playbook. That is our tool made by local District South parents for local District South students and families. Please download the playbook. The link is also in the chat. Find the action steps that best speak to the needs of your students, then look at your calendar right now and identify the day that you can go talk to your teacher or your principal. Finally, we want to invite all of you to join us in our work moving forward. Please mark those options in the survey so that we can follow up with you. If you are a parent in local District South, join us at our next meeting on October 14th at 6 p.m. Please fill out the link so we can send you the Zoom link. If you are a Black educator, please join the next meeting for our Black Educator Advocate Network meeting on October 12th at 6 p.m. And you can choose that option in the link as well. If you are an organizational partner, please help us keep Black students and Black families a priority in this district and in our state. So as you guys fill out the survey, thank you all for joining us.
Good night, everyone.